Appleton caught by Poughton. Boulding, still Boulding, 2 men around him. Off he goes, Michael Boulding. Gotta be! Oh, yes! You can't legislate for that. Ducking and diving, nipping and weaving, one way and the other.
That was harsher than I thought it was going to be as an ending. That was Mike. How many goals did you score that day, Mick? Was it just, it was 2, wasn't it? Or...
No, just one goal.
Was it?
Yeah.
I think that was the game with the magic pigeon that I keep mentioning. There was a pigeon always on the pitch whenever we scored, and there was a point in which the pontoon were trying to sort of coo it back down like the dove from above.
Yeah, the one thing I remember about that game is the rainbow.
Oh yeah,
there was a massive rainbow. Yeah, before the game, it was like really weird. We won
5-2 or whatever it was, and you remember the rainbow.
Yeah,
that's a player and a fan difference perspective.
Yeah. I always remembered there was a Toyota sign that was upside down, and that always used to perplex me. That might be before Mick joined actually. But
Go on.
No, I was just going to welcome everybody and say hello. Obviously, Michael Boulding is here, quick Mick, and I'm joined by Bruce, who has got off the Cleethorpes Park Cricket Club bench. I assume they're not playing, or wet weather has delayed play. And Hannah is here as well. Scott is eating off camera and just listening in, but I would imagine he might put his face in at some point. Hello, everybody, and welcome. Hannah, how has everything been going in Lincoln? Obviously, some shameful news, really, with Michael Appleton. How's everybody in the city taken that? I'm not sort of coming to you as a live reporter, I guess, but I assume, obviously, you're quite closely linked to the club down there, aren't you?
Yeah, so the charity I work for is Lincoln City's charity for years, so we do work quite closely with them. Michael's a lovely guy, so yeah, fingers crossed everything goes well, but it looks like it's just a routine surgery and he'll be back soon. Brilliant
stuff. Us Mariners are made of stern stuff, so hopefully all will be well. Bruce, how is everything in your end? We were just saying it was a bit of a dry spell for on this day. Is there any sort of match content coming up in the next 5 to 10 days?
I think there's some pre-season footage that somebody gave me last year that I've not shared yet, from one of the tours down in Devon. But yeah, it's quite tough going at the moment for me and probably for people that follow the account. We had the departure of Ian Anderson today after he refused to play in League Two on this day in 2004 or whatever it was. But yeah, I do well most days to get one bit of content.
He's he only scored 8 more goals apparently, according to Wikipedia, after leaving us. I remember him being quite talented, and I was quite excited about him being here. But then he went to deep dark Dundee, didn't he?
Yes, I think he did. It was one of them. It was that horrible own-made kit that we had. I think that probably scared him off in the end.
I mean, that thing chafed people's nipples off. I don't. Did you have to play in that kit, Mick?
Which one was that?
That was the Jarvis one.
And yeah, I think you did. It was the relegation season, Alex, wasn't it? 03-04.
Yeah, 03-04. Yeah, the Jarvis. Yeah, the grey away kit.
That's the one.
Yeah.
That was awful. Just makes me feel terrible. Mick, well, thank you so much for joining us. It is going to be an absolute. Personally, one of my favourite players, one of the most exciting players in my time supporting the club.
Thank you very much.
We were also commenting on how professional your background looks as well. It looks like a proper office.
I've even got a bike here. You can't see it, but I've never actually been on an exercise bike. You're
not in the new town physio suite, are you?
No.
The new porter cabinet Cheapside.
We got so many porta cabins now. Yeah. It's brilliant. It looks so good. It'll be great. Do you know what? I'd love to see a video when you guys come down for Broadley, sort of revisiting Cheapside and having a look. I mean, I assume not much has changed, but there's been paint added.
Oh. Yeah, I mean, we used to get changed at the ground and drive down.
Did you really?
Yeah.
Oh wow.
So we'd just be in the normal home dressing room and then drive down, come back. I think the meal back then was they had a little microwave in the corner in the in the main stand. That was the after training.
But you had a kit man in your day, though, didn't you?
Yeah, Mick.
Yeah, Mick Bilby.
Mick, great guy. What a great guy.
Well, apparently you had Macca on the other day, Alex, didn't you? The current goalkeeper, and he was saying that they haven't had a kit man for God knows how many years. They've got one again with the new owners. All these great improvements.
Yeah, but Mick, he was a brilliant guy, but he's like the kit. He watched it like a hawk. So you couldn't. I can remember it was after the Burnley game, and we'd obviously just stayed off relegation. There was a bit of a party atmosphere, and I can remember I'd got one of the sweat tops on, and as I was walking down the tunnel, someone asked for it, and I took it off, gave it him, and he was straight behind me and snatched it off him and straight in, yeah. So they'd give you like a telling off and a warning for trying to give any kit away.
Oh no, because there used to be quite a that was when there was a real penchant for like sharing shirts and stuff. You don't really see it that often now. Yeah. I was going to think who's.
But he was a great guy though, Mick. I can't. Yeah.
So we've got lots of questions from sort of fans and us guys are coming in as well. I've got one. I'll see if I can find it. Bruce, can I share my screen for 30? Oh no, it's not going to work. Oh yeah, this unfortunately my mouse is doing weird and wonderful things. Hang on, I'm going to find it on my phone. Bruce, have you got anything to ask Mick while I find it? Because everything's breaking my end.
I just I thought the first thing I wanted to really sort of talk about a little bit more before the football was the tennis really, and I was interested at what point you decided, because obviously you were a good I think you were a national standard tennis player, weren't you, when you were younger? Yeah. And I read on Wikipedia that you used to room with Tim Henman a bit. And how did that go when you were growing up doing both sports? Was it you keep your parents quite busy?
Well, what's strange, and like when I was coming back into football, I didn't really advertise it, but from the ages of I basically played football since I could walk, and that's all I did. Just loved football. Started playing tennis at about 11, 12 years older, and it basically took over everything. So from 13 years old to 19, I did not walk on a football pitch, whether it was a 5-a-side pitch or 11-a-side pitch. I didn't really discuss that when I was coming back into football, because I thought it might go against me, but I'd literally all I was doing was playing tennis. Traveling sort of 10 months of the year, and it took over my life. But it was weird because I always felt like I was a footballer playing tennis rather than than a tennis player.
And then you, how old were you when you sort of made the decision? Was that when you were 19 then that you would give football another crack?
Well, it was strange because I ended up moving house. And my house backed onto some playing fields. And I can remember walking onto the playing fields, and there was a Sunday League game going on. It was Bradway, who Chris Wilder ended up famously managing. Oh, right. But I ended up walking on, and they were playing. And I walked round to the manager and just said, could I, I was like watching him for a bit. And he said, come next week. So I came the next week. They gave me like 10 minutes. And then I ended up playing every time I was home. I ended up playing for them, and just got my love for the game back.
So there was a period where you were playing football, all right, at amateur level, but you were playing football and you were playing your tennis still.
So I was playing football and tennis, and then when I ended up at Mansfield, but it was a scout, Ivan Hollett, who. He must have. Well, Diz was one of his guys.
All right.
Nathan Arnold was another one of his guys. Back then, if you looked at that Mansfield team, Liam Lawrence, Bobby Hassel, there was, every single player that came through was from Ivan. So Ivan was, he scouted everyone, so I ended up there at Mansfield. Yeah.
How long were you at Mansfield for?
So I was at Mansfield for 2 seasons. So Mansfield for 2 seasons, and then I ended up getting training at Huddersfield. So I was going to sign for Huddersfield with Lou Macari, and Joe Jordan was the assistant manager. And then
that must have been entertaining.
Yeah.
Would they have been? What division were Mansfield in at the time? Then were they in League Two?
So Mansfield were League Two, Huddersfield were League One, and Grimsby were in the Division One.
And I think somebody asked a question. One of the questions that we got from one of the listeners was about the move, how the sort of the move to town came about, and how you felt about being approached by a team that's in what's now the Championship. Did that seem like a big step up? Was that a really good? Were you surprised by that, or had you been getting, like you say, a bit of attention from other clubs?
I'd been getting attention, but I still had I had a lot to prove. But when I was at Huddersfield, and I made a little bit of a gamble because Grimsby, they invited me over, but it was more of a trial game, so I came over, and I can remember it was against Doncaster Rovers, and so they wanted me as a left winger. So I came as a left winger, had, in my opinion, a really poor game, and I was thinking, I'm going to be back at Mansfield or wherever. And they gave me another game against Blackpool, and I talked to Lenny and I said, I want to play up front, I want you to play me up front, and I feel that if you play me up front, I feel like you'll sign me. And obviously John was his number 2, and John was the reason that I'd come to Grimsby on trial. It was all down to him, and he'd not really said too much to me while I was on trial, and I had a really good game. We won 5-0, but I missed a load of chances. And I can remember after the game, I looked up and John was smiling, and I knew at that point I was in. And then Lenny took me aside. He said, "We're going to sign you, but you really need to work on your finishing, and I can't remember what he said, but it was 8th or 9th in order to play up front. So you might have to play on the wing." And obviously under Lenny, I did play on the wing.
Yeah, we've had Cockers on. He's a really nice bloke.
Yeah. Well, the reason I ended up at Grimsby was totally down to John, 100%. It was his faith in, he gave me the chance. So
what had he seen you play, or did he know of you from previously, or
I think so. I'm not too sure, how, where he saw me, but it was completely down to him that I ended up there, and he took the chance, the same way that Ivan gave me the chance of playing professional football to start with.
Brilliant. And then how long was it before Lenny got sacked? You hadn't been here that long, had you, before Grovesy took over?
Yeah, it was. So I'm trying to think of the game. I think it was around New Year. So it was about 6 months. Yeah, that Lenny went.
I fixed
and
it.
Was the? I mean, that was that period. I think was that the best period that you had at the club, when that sort of purple patch that we had at the end of that season under Grovesy, where we beat Wimbledon. Sorry, was it 6-3 and or 6-2? I think, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And,
I mean, to be honest, for me, every period that I had at Grimsby was amazing. With Lenny, I've got so many fond memories, of the games and the times that we had. Obviously, winning that cup game at Anfield, that was Lenny. So there was great periods, and then obviously we had that, a really good running. But it was when Grovesy initially took over, we did have a little bit of a sticky patch for a few games, before we got some momentum.
No, it was that the night at Anfield, I think, is right up there, and it's one of the best nights that we've I've ever had as a town fan.
Yeah.
One of the it's in the top couple probably with the first visit to Wembley.
Yeah.
It was just an unbelievable night, and what it must have been like for you. And we were quite a young team as well, weren't we? There was Johnny.
Yeah.
I think Johnny Rowan started, didn't he, with Jevo, and we were quite a young side really, and we played two left backs. Ben Chapman played us.
Yeah, well, Bud was my best friend
right
at Grimsby. Yeah, so we like drove in together, and Lynn who lives around the corner from the ground. That was my digs. That's where I stayed when I was there, and Ben had stayed there before me. So we used to, we'd socialise around at Lynn's, together, and it was amazing to see him playing that night, and then obviously came on as sub to enjoy it as well.
No, it was amazing. It was amazing.
It was amazing.
What was that sort of the camaraderie around that sort of purple patch? Because we played some phenomenal football in that point. Yeah. Beat Wolves away, I remember with Andy Todd. Was there something special at that moment, or what could you attribute it to?
I think things just clicked, and I think it's really difficult in football to find that winning formula, and confidence is it's so fragile in professional sport, and when you've not got it, it's so elusive. I can remember the game at Crewe, and that was a turning point for me as well, Crewe, because we'd gone there. I was on the bench, so that was when Grosey took over. So I was on the bench, and I can't remember exactly the score, but I think it was like 4-0. The crowd you could feel them getting agitated. It was relegation was sort of looming, and I can remember after the game on the bus on the way back, like the senior pros, it was sort of had a meeting on the bus, and the main thing that came out of it was that we needed pace up front. So I was sat there listening to that, thinking, there wasn't many players, in that division who I thought were quicker than me. I thought, I could do that job. And I can remember we stopped at the service station. I'm trying to think who I talked to. It was one of the coaches, but we were walking over the bridge to the cars on the other side. And I said to him, I really think I could do that job. And then the game after, I was put up front. But it took about 4 or 5 games, and I played up front with a load of different people, until it clicked, and it was one, like me and Bradley Allen, really. It was like one Swede clicked up front together, and it felt like, for me, I felt like he knew what I was going to do before I did it. He was like an amazing footballer, Bradley. But we're obviously, I'm not the biggest, Brad's not the biggest, and I think they always want to stick someone big up front with someone who they think's smaller. Whereas me and Brad, we had, you just have that chemistry, I think, sometimes.
Did you? I mean, you must have been very aware of the pace you had. So, I mean, was there anyone even close to you at training in terms of pace? Because I don't, apart from probably David Nielsen, I don't think I've met a quicker town player.
I'm trying to think who was fast.
You're too far behind.
Yeah, I mean, I've obviously at Villa there was Vasalem players like that who would, just absolutely crazy speed. But
did you keep up with them then as well? Did you? Because
over, like, I think I'm fastest over 20, 30 meters, and then obviously I think once you go over that, it's I'll probably get reeled in by someone, but I think over 10, 20, 30 meters, not anymore.
I'm sure you'd still leave me for dead. The one question I was going to ask, and then I'm going to, Hannah, you can feel free to chirp in. So Craig Young messaged me on Twitter and says I met Mick at A Paradise on the Ibiza tour. He was a really nice lad. We had a dance and I had a photo of him, and then he signed and we started. He kindly signed it for me, but asked I didn't show anyone because they were all out drinking. And he very kindly sent me the photo.
Oh my God.
There you are.
Oh. Oh dear.
Was that tour as good as we thought it was? Because that's now sort of come down. It's one of these tours now where every town fan says they were there when there was probably only about 20 of them. It was brilliant. I mean, that was the only night we were allowed out. I can remember we tried to sneak out to like a local bar one night, and Grosy walked past after about 5 minutes. I think he was. Where was he going?
I think. Well, he said he was rounding everyone up, but who knows?
We've got him on in a couple of weeks. Yeah. We'll ask him to confirm that he was actually doing the rounding up.
I can't believe that haircut.
It's a haircut of a legend. Hannah, what were you gonna? Is there anything you'd like to ask? And I'll pull up the questions as well while you do.
Oh, well, I wish I was there, to be honest, because it looks great. But I was about 8 or 9, maybe at that point.
Can we stop rubbing this in, please?
It is a regular theme, isn't it? Hannah reminding us how old we all are now.
I was wondering. I guess when I was watching you play, everything seemed so like big to me. How did the atmosphere compare to the other teams you played for?
So like playing at Blundell for me, especially at that time, when we were in Division 1, it was, some of the games, the atmospheres were amazing, and like Blundell Park, it always felt like the crowd, on top of you, and I think, like, for me, it really helped me, because once I'd started scoring, I think the crowd then they get like confidence in players, and you feel that, you feel that. So it was like, you turn and you start running, and there's that anticipation, and you feel the energy goes through the roof, and it gives you another couple of yards. And also as well, you feel relaxed, to try things. You don't take extra touches when you don't need to, so you'll let shots go, and you know that if you miss, no one's going to get on your back. I've obviously experienced the opposite of that, at the club. So it was like I always felt at Grimsby that I trusted the fans, I trusted the crowd.
Yeah.
And so I felt relaxed. I could play my own game because I had trust in them, that they were with me and with the team. And even when we were going through really difficult periods, the fans were really supportive. If you go to some of the other clubs that you go to, you'll be 15 minutes into a game, and you can feel the tension of the crowd, and I think sometimes it can it can overwhelm a team, and then they're playing within themselves, rather than it was like that period towards the end of the season when we were winning and we were going away to Wolves. We were playing out of ourselves. We were just out there. It was like we were fighting for our lives, but we knew that we were in form, and obviously, Grosy made some really good signings. I mean, I've not mentioned him, but Andy Todd. Toddy was probably the key to that turnaround. He brought a calmness and a solidness, and obviously a brilliant player, really brilliant player.
I think there's a
Well,
lot
he
of
scored
people,
that. Yeah, he scored that winner at Wolves. Yeah.
sorry, there's a lot of people that I think have him down as Town's best ever loan signing.
Oh yeah, definitely.
He was a class above that level, wasn't he?
Yeah.
I think football fans in general, they get a bad rap, and like growing up attending Grimsby matches, I've never felt scared or intimidated.
No, yeah.
I totally agree with what you're saying. It's like a family, isn't it? When you're there.
But like my mum and dad as well. It's like they speak like so fondly of Grimsby, and it's like, you know, some of, you know, you go away to Stoke or somewhere like that, and it's, you know, there can be really intimidating atmospheres, you know, where your parents, they don't really, like, I had a friend who played for Stoke, and his mum and dad stopped coming to the matches, you know, because they didn't feel safe, you know, whereas it's like Grimsby, it's always been like a family club, and yeah, that's how it felt for me.
Do you mind me asking? Obviously,
Ask
you
me
were
anything, yeah.
you were there at the Stockport game. How did the team sort of deal with the Martin Pringle incident? How did you?
Yeah,
because that was, I mean, I was in the pontoon that night, and it's still like, even now, it's still like, it's terrible to say, but you can hear it.
Yeah.
How did you all? Did you see anybody? Did you speak to anybody? I mean, this is 20 years ago, I guess. So the answer might not be yes. But did you all come together? Was there anything that was a response to that?
The coming together was a couple of weeks after, when Martin, he came back and he like came to games, and it's like, you know, he was part of that squad, and it's like, you know, it was a very, very tight-knit bunch at that point, and it's, you know, it's like, obviously at the time you know that it's a career-ending tackle, and it's just it's so, you know, it's so cruel.
It really was, and I don't know what you remember from that day, Bruce, but that was a shocking evening, and I still remember Carlton. Was it Carlton Palmer that was still trying to get Challoner sent off, if I remember rightly, wasn't he? Or...
He took him off, didn't he? He subbed him straight after. But yeah, I mean, I remember the night and the incident and stuff, and I think it was only his second game. I think he played away in his first game. It was his second game for us.
Great, like really, really great guy as well.
But that what you say about him coming back to the squad and things, considering he was only on loan and he'd been there, that probably says a lot about the man, because, you know, a lot of people would have been, you know, would have gone back to London, and they would have, because he was Charlton, they were both from Charlton, weren't they? And he would have gone back to London and, you know, and licked his wounds and whatever. But to, you know, the fact that he still stayed around, it was just a shame. And I you know, and it was an awful tackle. I mean, I'm sure Challoner didn't set out to you know, end his career. But it was a horrendous tackle, and I think Carlton Palmer got a lot of respect that night with taking him off.
I just don't. I do not understand professionals who, you know, it was at best it was reckless, like really reckless. But I just don't. I don't understand the mentality of other professionals who would want to you know, do something like that.
I'll try and take it up now. What was it like playing with Gaza?
Gaza. Yeah. Well, I asked Gaza for his shirt at the end of the game.
Did you really?
Yeah, but Pouts had got it. So yeah, Pouts has got a big Newcastle tattoo on his car. But I think they knew each other a little bit, so he got him before the game.
Gaza was teaching him the step overs, was he?
Yeah, so it was right at the end of the game, and loads of the crowd were running on the pitch, and I made sure I got close to him, and I asked him for his shirt, and he turned around, looked at the crowd, and he was like, "Sorry, Pouts has got it." And so
that leads me on quite nicely to my next question. Were there 2 match balls for the Wimbledon game? Did you both get one signed? So someone, so I think
I think like Pouts had got the match ball, and then someone went and got another ball. But that was amazing. I mean, Pouts, like, what a great player, brilliant leader, always full of energy, always, laughing and joking, like really, really important and an integral person to that squad. But it was amazing we just kept laughing at each other,
Do you think later on in your time that at Town, because obviously we'll come back to the move to Villa and stuff, but later on in your time, obviously the next 2 seasons were 2 seasons of struggle, a particular struggle. But obviously we'd had the money, the financial crisis that's been talked about so many times.
Yeah.
And obviously we got rid of the likes of Jack Lester, didn't we, and Powelton, and I don't think. I mean, we'll speak to him about it in a few weeks, but I'm pretty sure that Alan didn't want to leave. And that must have affected the squad and that must have affected you all, sort of in a mental way, if you like, that the squad was being weakened and you were already struggling.
Yeah. Well, I left at a similar time to Powers. He obviously went. Did it? I think he went. Did he go to Gillingham or?
Yes.
Yeah. So and
we don't talk about it.
Yeah. And I went to Barnsley. But yeah, it was like, obviously Grovesy got sacked, and then I mean, hindsight's a great thing, but I thought it was a big mistake, them sacking Paul at that time. I think if he'd have stayed, I 100% would have stayed, and I think get a couple of players in. I think we'd have been all right. I think we'd have been all right.
I think
what was
sorry, Alex.
Sorry.
Yeah.
No. I was just going to ask, because obviously you returned that season with Barnsley.
Oh my God.
What happened that game? Because I mean, that came out of the blue for us. Never mind for you guys.
Yeah, that was. I mean, for me, like Barnsley, like I loved my time at Barnsley. Like, Barnsley is an amazing club, but at that time,
they don't listen to this podcast. It's fine.
Yeah, but at that time, it was a wrong decision. It was a wrong decision by me. Like, there's many reasons behind it, but it was a wrong decision. But I can remember so I was on the bench for that game. So it was about 2 weeks. I'd gone there. It was good John Thornton who was manager. So I'd gone there. I was on the bench for that game, and I remember I was sat on the bench and waiting for the teams to come out, and a little boy walked around the side of the dugout, and he'd got my number 9 shirt, and I was and asked me to sign it, and I could have broken down in tears right there, because I was I'd have done anything to have reversed that at that point. But there you go. But I knew at that point it just hit me. It just hit me, and then obviously, taking the abuse, which which it was horrible day. But
there were a lot of former Grimsby players in that team as well. You had Peter Handerside as well at the back, didn't you?
Yeah.
He didn't do very well. Not his finest moment.
Yeah. I think I came on for about 10 minutes.
Was that the game, Alex, where Isaiah Rankin scored against his own club?
I mean, it sounds like something that Isaiah Rankin would do.
Mm.
And then he celebrated in front of the Barnsley fans.
Yes, that's what. Yes.
Yeah. It was. But, I mean, that wouldn't even happen now, would he? He won't play against his parent club now. But to score in front of the Osmond and then go and celebrate in front of their fans, it didn't go down very well. But
I can remember. I can remember when I was signing, because there was like £5,000 put on the fee, and I can remember saying, "What's this about?" And they said, "Oh, that's for police for the return game in 2 weeks." And I was like, "Oh, brilliant!"
Were you playing?
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. True story. Yeah.
you playing in the? Did you play in the game, Mick? It might be different time, but when we played at Barnsley, when Gally took a penalty and missed for Barnsley, were you around then, or was that after you'd left?
No, I wasn't.
Yeah, we just reminded me when you were talking about your. We were playing Barnsley away, and they got a penalty, and Gally, who had, I mean, I'd seen him take penalties, I think, in shootouts, but he wasn't a regular penalty taker. He stepped up at Oakwell and missed.
Yeah,
and the amount of abuse that he got when he come past the town fans at the end of the game was like you say, it's. I think they have short memories, football fans, don't they? We're all guilty of it.
To be honest, if I think if I'd have been, especially in like my scenario, if I'd have been a Grimsby fan, I'd have been. One of the things I as well, which is quite funny, was so my family went to that game, and my sister and the boyfriend, and obviously everyone was chanting Judas, and he was stood up joining in with them. He thought it was amazing. He thought it was absolutely amazing. My sister was there, goes, sit down.
And he makes a shit cup of tea. What was it like working under Graham Taylor? I mean, we're jumping about a bit, but that must have been pretty good, wasn't it?
Yeah, brilliant. Yeah, so I mean, it was all a bit surreal because he'd obviously been to the World Cup in Japan, and then he came back from Japan, and his first signing was me from Grimsby, and I can remember going over to Villa Park, meeting Doug Ellis, sat in Graham Taylor's office, and I was just like, completely surreal.
It's the same. It's surely the same as our manager's office, is it? I'm sure it's the same sleeveless around.
So his office is about the same size as the building. Yeah.
I guess did he ever talk to you about town as well and his time there?
So he loved it, and he talked about it. But he's he had a lot of stories, Graham, and that like another like real gentleman. That's how I'd describe him, a real gentleman. And it was like every chat, every conversation we had, even when I was leaving Villa, it was we always got on like really well, and like massive amount of respect for him.
Yeah, we once went to watch England in Paris, and we bumped into him just getting off the plane at Charles de Gaulle. Yeah, and he saw our town. I can't remember what we had on, a town top or something. Yeah, and we must have stood to him just getting off the plane. He stood chatting to us for about 10 or 15 minutes about town. He just he didn't rush off. He just had time to talk to you, and he was genuinely interested in the club and what had gone on. Yeah, it was he was another one that went too soon. Real nice guy, and always seemed to have time for everybody.
Yeah, proper person. Yeah.
So did the Villa thing, obviously the Villa thing that sort of plays it down a bit. Sorry, but did it didn't last that long?
No.
How did the sort of the move back to town come about, and the fact that it didn't last that long? How did that that sort of play out?
So that season, the club that I was actually going to sign for was Sheffield United. So I'd met Neil Warnock in the summer. Like, I'm obviously from Sheffield United fan growing up, and I'd met Neil at his house, had like a long discussion. I'd told him, about the interest from Villa. Well, it was Villa, Everton, and Middlesbrough at that time. Steve McLaren at Middlesbrough. I told him about the other interest, and he just said, well, if those clubs are in for you, like I can't hold you back. Sheffield United were in the Championship. So when I went to Villa, Neil phoned me every day, asking how it was going, blah blah blah. And eventually, when I went on loan to Sheffield United, signed a month. So signed a month with a view to staying on. Played a month, and this was when Steve Cabber was at Grimsby at that time, and he obviously was on, he was on fire. So I played a month, then the second month played against Derby away, and I got what was the worst injury of my career, which was I tore 50% of the ligaments in my right ankle shooting. Warren Barton tackled a shot as I was shooting, and tore 50% of the ligaments, and so I eventually went back to Villa for my rehab. Steve signed for Sheffield United, which was obviously like a replacement for me, another fast player, and that's when I started. Like Groves, as I was getting fitter, Grovesy was talking to me all the time, and he came to my first game back. We played against Norwich at Villa Park in a friendly. Talked to him and Graham after in the car park, and got a loan move back to Blundell Park.
It just makes you realise, doesn't it, when you think that what it must entail being a player manager.
Yeah.
It must be tough. We all hear nowadays how hard Paul Hurst works, but to have to keep yourself fit like Grovesy always did, and also do the running around, like you say, going to games and watching players and that sort of thing. It must have been, and he was only quite young then, and I think he said in an interview recently that he looks back now and he realises it was nearly an impossible job at that time with once the ITV digital and the financial cuts and things had hit. For a small club like ours, competing at that level just became nigh on impossible.
Yeah, I think so, but I really do like Groves was a really good manager who's like the most professional footballer that I have been around. Like so professional, like so honest and hardworking. And I think that him and Graham would have turned it around together, because we didn't have a bad team at all. We definitely weren't one of the worst teams, in that division. But I think it was a big mistake. He'd done really well the season before, and they didn't give him long enough, I don't think, to turn it around. I think by jumping, obviously Grez took over, did really well, but then they jumped to Nicky Lowe, and I don't think that was the right decision.
No, I think there was some awful decisions at that time, around that time.
Yeah.
I mean, as a fan, Nicky Law just never seemed interested. We got relegated at Tranmere at the end of the season, and he was laughing and chatting with his mates on the sidelines.
Grovesy bled. He bled the club. He loved the club, and it hurt him. And it's like I think the answers would have been found, and we did have the team to turn it around.
I feel at the time, like as fans, I was quite young, but I felt like we kind of let it pull down in a way at that point. I don't think we understood fully the circumstances we found ourselves in.
Yeah.
And the sort of perilous situation we had, and I could imagine he must have cut a very lonely figure at times, having to fight both on the pitch, and with the fans who were sort of like who had at that point. I mean, Hurst will hate this, but a little bit spoiled, used to Championship and not and not used to sort of having to deal with League One and alike. And I think it's a shame. It's one of these ones where I think we weren't all aware, and with social media as it is now, I think that wouldn't have necessarily been the case. But it was a sad time for, I think, everybody. What were you going to ask, Hannah?
Well, I don't know. You've kind of covered the question in your last answer, but
sorry, mate.
No,
I'm just going to open this curtain because I can just see I'm getting darker and darker here. So.
Yeah, that's fine. So we've had a supporter ask which coach at GTFC.
Sorry, the sun was blaring through before, so I just pulled it.
Oh, he had his headphones
sorry,
up.
yeah, sorry.
Sorry. So a supporter's asked which coach at GTFC do you feel had the biggest impact on your game? I don't know if you would say Groves or someone else.
Biggest impact. I'm just trying to think. Yeah, I mean, like Cockers. Cockers obviously for what he did for me, but the probably Paul Wilkinson. Yeah, probably Paul Wilkinson, because he was the one, like when Lenny left, I just did finishing. He started taking the strikers, but the stuff that I learned from him, about like the composure and you don't always need to blast it, pass it in, but the practice sessions we did, and then even Bradley Allen, because me and Brad would go separately together and practice like different techniques. So I'd probably say the biggest influence on me, and even like Grovesy, when he was playing, he'd be he was obviously the captain, but he'd always be talking to you, and if you're on the bench or whatever, I can remember one time I wasn't starting, so I was on the bench, and I can remember him pulling up alongside me in training and said, make sure you keep doing your running and staying fit, because you need to be ready when called upon. And I can remember it really resonated with me at the time, because I thought you're out of the team and you're like feeling a bit low, and then it's like the captain comes up and tells you something like that, and he's like, yeah, he's right. Would
you say that the short bursts of runs in tennis helped you with your speed in football?
Probably, yeah. Probably. I mean, it's obviously, most tennis is played on hard court, so that quick impact, it probably really does help. And for footwork, you're doing a lot of skipping, and you're doing a lot of footwork drills. So yeah, I'd definitely say yeah.
Did you find that the training was different? Was it more professional in tennis than it would be, say, at Grimsby, and you're all in Ibiza? Not that it's a leading question or anything.
Yeah. I think football's obviously it's a very like 90 minutes professional, even like a professional match, even compared to like a reserve game, the tempo just goes up another notch. So I think you've got to be really, really fit to play professional football. One of the things I think tennis gave me though was independence. You have to do everything yourself, and even from 15, 16 I was traveling alone, out to Asia or India, USA, South America, on my own, and I felt very relaxed, but I was also you're preparing all your kit, and if anything goes wrong, it's down to yourself. Whereas in football, your boots are packed the night before, and it's all everything's taken to the ground. And when you travel, you have to hand passports in, so people don't turn up at the airport without their passport. And it was just that. It was. I think the difference was I never stopped. So it was like the training. I go and train in the morning, go home, like have a little sleep, then be stretching, do my own training at home, and just it was like a full-time job for me. It never ever stopped. And I think that the tennis gave me that discipline, because obviously in tennis you practice for hours and hours and hours, and then analyze it for hours and hours and hours, and you're constantly surrounded by psychologists and people like that.
Were you one of those people that is just a talented sportsman? So, I mean, have you got a good golf game? Did everybody
I don't play golf. Yeah. No, I played a little bit, but just takes too long.
No one can keep up with you running between holes.
Yeah, I do. I like boxing. I love boxing. And when I finished playing, I started going to the boxing gym every day for a few years, just to just as like a release. But yeah, I prefer competitive sports where, like, I think golf's just a bit too.
I just imagine you though at school or something like that. So I'd imagine cross country district runner and sort of one sports day with every sort of event, and then you're sort of like, oh, just pick up a cricket bat, Mick, and then 30, you've got a strike rate of 400 off a ball or something like that. I don't know. Yeah. You're probably the most talented sportsman we've had since that guy who played for England cricket.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Like in my life, I've met some like amazingly talented people, and like I'm of the opinion that like opportunity and also having the right people around you and the opportunity. Like I've seen some like amazingly talented people that that they've not got forward, where you think they're going to go. And I think I don't know whether it's like fate shining down or it was like Ivan giving me the opportunity at football. Maybe I wouldn't have got that opportunity and I carried on playing Sunday League football. And
I think we've seen quite a lot of that in recent times with the fate of the club and where it's been. I've had many a conversation with people where you see players that are playing non-league, and some of them are playing non-league because they're not quite good enough, and some are playing non-league because their attitude's not quite there, or there's just something. I mean,
I think people lose hope as well. I think that if you take a lot of knockbacks, whatever it is in life, you can start to think, oh, am I good enough? Should I? And it's like, I think, especially with sport, because that confidence is fragile. And I think, like, playing professional sport, it's such a surreal thing that, I mean, for me at least, it's like when you showed the goal. It feels like I'm watching someone else. It's like I differentiate, playing and like normal life. And I think that, opportunity is massive. People getting the opportunity is massive. And it's like some people, they don't get the opportunity for no fault of their own, and they're sort of, banging away, trying to get in. So it, there is a bit of luck and everything in there.
I think as well, like you said a few minutes ago, Livo, I think, didn't Livo say, Alex, when he was on, that he struggled for a few years after he retired with with fitness, and it was hard to transition from being a professional sportsman to not.
It is such a surreal lifestyle, and obviously you're surrounded by your teammates, and so you're going in and it's like, you go in having a laugh and a joke, training, keeping fit, and then suddenly, you stop, and it's like that sort of structure's, sort of just taken away.
Do you have a game that sticks in your head that, I mean, it doesn't have to be town, it can be, what was the one that was sort of, you thought that's the pinnacle of your footballing career or your footballing performances, I guess?
Yeah, the pinnacle for me was probably the Liverpool game, just for atmosphere. I mean, it was just, I don't know how many town fans were there that day, but they took the roof off Anfield. It was like, it was so surreal being on the pitch and and celebrating that goal. So that was amazing. But the Burnley game, like, I remember that day, for the rest of my life. It was, that was a brilliant day.
That I genuinely felt after that game. It sounds stupid because it's the final get home game, and it's like, we're going up next year. This is we've got a hat. I'm getting a new stadium.
Yeah. I think to be honest with you, if we'd have kept that team and obviously added to it, it was such a good, confident unit, and it just sort of broke apart after that game.
I suppose Toddy, going back at the end of his loan spell.
Yeah.
You already said how important he was.
Yeah.
And we were never going to sign him permanently, were we? Realistically.
Yeah.
What was it like?
Go on.
No, I was just going to ask, because you played with such against and with some such wonderful players. I mean, think about that season alone. You played with what? Against Bergkamp, against Gaza.
I was going to say Bergkamp, because Bergkamp was one of my heroes. So I can remember like seeing him in the tunnel, and I was just like, wow. Like, I can't believe I'm going to be even on the same pitch as this guy.
Did he start that night?
Yeah. Did Bergkamp start?
Yeah.
Bergkamp started. Yeah. I didn't. I came on at half time.
Yeah.
It was a funny night. That it was. Yeah. We lost 2-0, but it was a comfortable 2-0.
Yeah.
We didn't really create.
Get going. Yeah.
We didn't really create a great deal of chances, but it was funny when we all talked so fondly of the Anfield night, and that was the only time I ever went to Highbury.
Yeah.
And again, we took a big following midweek, and obviously it was down to London, but the game hardly gets talked about because obviously we didn't really lay a glove on them.
Yeah, it seemed to like drift by. Yeah.
It was a weird one. I remember it. I think there was only like 16,000 there, and 7,000 of them were town fans crammed in the clock end. It was, and you had what, Sylvan Wiltord up front, who had obviously just come off the back of scoring in the Euros final, and I think Edu got his first goal for
Van Bronckhorst.
Yeah.
And who was Martin Keown?
Yeah, and
I've got a photo with Martin Keown.
Oh, have you really?
Yeah, with him.
Did you not ask Bergkamp for his shirt? Really? Did you not ask Bergkamp for his shirt?
No. The only person I ever asked for the shirt was Gaza. Yeah, was the only person. Yeah.
We're all wondering why you're tracking back, trying to chase down Bergkamp.
Yeah. Against Liverpool. So, the free kick that Brooms scored from was it Hippier? Yeah, Hippier. So Hippier's brought me down, but he was convinced that I'd dived, and then he was on at me for the rest of the game, and then after he wouldn't swap his shirt with anyone, and he was trying to stop everyone else swapping the shirts and that.
I just remember.
I don't think that night. Sorry, Alex.
No. I was sat the opposite end, so I was so adamant that we'd had the biggest injustice ever, but David Baharrell hadn't sort of slap shopped the ball up into the air. I was like, this is an injustice of the greatest. I was foaming at the mouth until I saw the replay. What were you going to say, Bruce?
I was just going to say that night will probably never be beaten because, to win in extra time in the last minute at Anfield with the goal that we scored was just and like you say, Mick, I think there were 7,000 town fans there that night. Yeah. And we had the whole of the Anfield Road end and a little bit of the Kemlyn Road stand, or the Centenary as it's called now. And it was just you couldn't script it. You just could not script a winning goal like that. I think Chris Kirkland said it was the best goal he ever conceded.
Yeah.
It's just unbelievable.
Poughton doing bicycle kicks to clear the line in the box.
Yeah.
I mean, you must have been looking at Jevo going, "Don't shoot from there."
Yeah, well, I was making a run. I was making a run. Yeah. I could see who was like lining up, and I was just thinking he's just going to lift it over the top for me. And he shot, and I was like, oh. And then,
only one effing and blinding at him, going, "I'm clean through."
Yeah. Would you have put your hand up for a penalty?
Would I? Yeah, definitely. Yeah, definitely.
I didn't even think of asking that, Bruce.
Yeah, I had one when England played Denmark the other day with Kasper Schmeichel. When I was at Bradford, had a penalty shootout in the cup game, and Kasper Schmeichel saved. I was first up, and he saved the penalty.
Oh no!
Yeah. So that was the last penalty shootout I had, and he saved it.
Oh no!
Yeah,
Oh man!
yeah.
Has anybody got? I don't want to keep Mick forever. Has anybody got any questions they'd like to ask Scott? I know you're listening in. Is there anything you'd like to ask as well? It feels
I think people always ask, we like, what are you up to now, Mick? What have you been doing since you retired?
So yes, I mean, I retired 10 years ago now. I'm 45 now. It's flown by, but yeah. So in the last 10 years, I work with autistic adults every day and that. So one of them today actually told me I looked 55. So. So yeah. So yeah, I've been doing that for the for the last 7 or 8 years. Yeah.
Oh, excellent. Is that something you went straight into? Is that something?
Kind of, yeah. So my brother and 2 brother-in-laws are involved in it as well. Yeah. So we run it together.
Nice. Where are you living?
Sheffield. Yeah.
You're back in Sheffield. Back in Sheffield, are you?
Yeah.
Have you been, when did you last see Town play? Have you been at all?
I did come to a game. It was against Macclesfield.
was that not New Year's?
Was it? Yeah, I'm trying to think. What? It wasn't obviously not last season.
No, we don't talk about last season. None of us went, and none of us wanted. Gone.
I know. It was a weird one, wasn't it? Last season, you know, not like having no fans there. It's like
it was horrible. It was horrible. It was like watching an elderly relative die.
Yeah, it was probably good for our team that we weren't there.
Yeah, but there looks like there's a lot of hope going forward for the club, doesn't there now? So. Is everyone confident?
It's a different world. Speaking
brilliant.
to some of the players and some of it, and it's going to be great to see everybody there. I mean, I'm slightly worried. There's a big old contact booked here. I think Town play. There's that. Isn't there that there's that website where you can book a player to like join you on your stag do for like a 5-a-side game or something like that. Like I think Matty Newton's got a bit of a business here going. These guys are good. You're going. Can someone get hold of Mick Boulding for our 5-a-side team?
Yeah. I asked him for a game because he was talking about this, and I was like, oh my god, I need to get fit. Like you're gonna have to get me involved in a few 5-a-sides and that. So.
There we go. So if any 11-side or 5-a-side teams are struggling for players in the new season, Mick is ready and willing to play. It will be charged at
slow Mick.
Yeah, you haven't seen me run. It will be £150 a head, and we take a 10% cut.
No. I'll be paying my subs if I turn up.
Look forward to the Broadley game. We've spoken to Matt. We've spoken about Matt. Well, spoken with Matt several times, and you know the charity and what they do is brilliant, and for the fans to see all you guys back, some more active than others, but to see them back at Blundell Park is going to be amazing.
I think that like Matt's done an unbelievable job there. I mean, it must have been chaotic trying to get hold of everyone and bringing everyone together and everything, but it's he's doing amazing. He's raising a lot of money for a fantastic cause, and I think it'll be a brilliant day.
No, he's done well. He gives a lot of credit, Alex, to Macca as well, doesn't he?
He does. There's going to be a lot of grown men in tears.
Macca needs a statue, I think, outside Blundell.
It won't cost much, would it? It won't be very big. But no, it'll be amazing, and I'm sure the pubs of Cleethorpes are hoping afterwards that there'll be no restrictions.
Yeah.
There'll be a lot of free beers for any town player that wants them.
Be like Ibiza.
On the Costa
all over again.
We needed an all or nothing documentary on this Ibiza tour, I think.
I think the probably fans had a better time than us because we were only allowed out on that last night.
Where the ball gone.
Yeah, and then Grovesley had us up at 8 a.m. running.
Did he really?
Yes. Yeah.
That's cruel.
Yeah.
That's the ultimate professional.
Yeah. Yep. So and then so he had us up running, and then we flew home.
Yeah. Oh, I would have loved to have seen that run.
Yeah.
Oh, Mick, it has been a true pleasure. Thank you so much.
No, thank you so much for having me.
Oh no, anytime,
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah.
It's a genuine joy to speak to you and to reminisce on what was probably one of my favourite moments supporting Town in that sort of time that you were there. It felt like the sky was the limit. Hannah, is there anything else you wanted to ask before we go?
No questions really. Just it's been really nice to meet you, and you were like one of my first football heroes, so I'm a bit starstruck, but it's been lovely to meet you.
Yeah, no, great to meet you, Hannah.
It's just, I do you ever get anybody shouting at you before we get? Does anybody shout at you from across like the high street or something, going, "Mick"? Just no.
No, like I mean, I'm lucky if my family does that. But yeah, no. Even when I was playing in Grimsby, no one would ever recognise me. But it was only when I'd say my name. I can remember going to. I went to the bus station to like open something, and turned up, and there was a little chap who'd like come up, and he was probably about here on me, and I came, I was like looking, and he was like, what's the problem? And I said, I've been sent by the club, and I said, Mick Boulding. He went, oh, he goes, you look really small on the pitch. He was like, it's about here. I was like, oh, cheers.
Oh no.
Yeah. So I think I'd probably look a bit different.
Amazing.
Pictures of him, but yeah.
Oh man, thank you so much.
Yeah. No, thanks for having me. Brilliant.
And we can't wait to see you all in August.
I'm like really looking forward to it.
There's going to be a lot of blubbing adults. As I'll be walking to my little six-year-old up to go, this man's a legend, and then what? This man's a legend. He's also going, why have I got this man's signature on my shirt? Don't worry about it. Just take it. But brilliant. Thank you so much.
No, thanks for having me.
That's all right. I'm going to stop that there then.